Hey guys, I'm Jody with Board Game Perspective. Today we're taking a look at Tiny Epic Dungeons. This is a 1 to 4 player cooperative game and it's designed by Scott Alms and published by Gamelin Games. And it says, a dangerous dungeon crawler. So like I said, this is cooperative, so you're working together. And it's kind of played in 2 acts. So the first act, you're going in the dungeon, fighting enemies, trying to find the boss's lair. And then act 2, you're taking on the boss himself. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick look on an overview of the game, and then I'll come back up and give you my thoughts. Tiny Epic Dungeons is a cooperative game split into 2 acts. In Act 1, you're going to be exploring the dungeon, fighting enemies, and evading traps in your quest to find the boss's lair. In Act 2, you're going to engage in an epic battle against the boss. This is going to be a very general overview of how to play, so do not use this as a detailed how to play. Now I have this game set up for 2 players, but generally you're going to have the starting card here and all of your hero miniatures on the starting tile. And then you're going to have 4 cards, dungeon cards laid out. Each player is going to get a hero, and each hero has different abilities and starting power and health. And then there's a reference sheet on the other side if you want to grab one for reference. Then you've got the boss mat that's chosen at random. Then you have goblin cards, minion cards. This is the torch mat where you keep track of Act 1. The torch is going down. Then you've got potion cards. This includes the potions and perils little mini expansions. So we got potions, we got loot cards, and spell cards. Then you've also got all these little trap things here, dice, and other stuff. The loot, spells, and potions can provide upgraded abilities. So for instance, this loot would be a Robe of the Phoenix. So it will give you additional things you can do, and there's free action here for instance. And you would place these cards around your hero to provide special abilities. Now these spells provide abilities as well, but they're more like one-time uses. And then the potion cards might have a negative effect, but also will have a positive thing for you as well. So the goal of the game is to get through Act 1 and then try to defeat the boss in Act 2. If you do that, then you win. But there's 3 ways you can lose. One of the ways is if a 5th goblin has to be put out in the dungeon and there's already 4 of them, then you will lose. If the torch on the torch mat goes all the way down to the skull, then you will lose. And then if the dungeon cannot be explored any further and the lair door card has not been revealed. So each hero has their own attributes. Each hero has a different amount of health and then focus. And then this shows the amount of speed, so the maximum number of dungeon rooms you can move into on your turn. And then this shows the defense, basically the amount of damage that you can negate from an enemy counterattack. And then you have all these 3 different skills here. Now each hero might have different amounts, so you got range from 1, 2 to 3 skill. Now there are 3 main actions that you can do on your turn. So one of them is moving based off of your speed. You can move and explore the dungeon. Then you can perform 1 heroic action. Now heroic actions are the blue icons on your player mat and other places. And then you can perform any number of free actions. And free actions are notated by the orange icons. At the end of each turn, the torch must always move down 1 space and resolve the effect on the space. Now whenever you move, you can follow these corridors. So let's say that I want to move into this room. Alright, so I flip this over and I'm going to move into the room. Now you have to line up these corridors so that they can have a continual path here. And so you can rotate this card to make it however you want it to be, but obviously it can't be like that. It has to be connected. So I can do that, and I would enter in here. Now there are different things that might show up in rooms. For instance, this one is a trap. So if this has not been disarmed, then we have to check for danger and perform a skill check here. Once you move into a new room and there's another open corridor, you're going to put a dungeon card to continue the path, but you're not going to reveal it yet. You only reveal it whenever you move into the new dungeon card. Now the dungeon can only be a 7x7 grid, so you can never extend past that. So this card shows that you have to do this trap. If you succeed against the trap, then you can take a loot card. Or if you fail, then you have to add a goblin to this room. And this is the skill that is going to be used, agility. So for this skill check, we had to have a 4 or greater of an agility skill. So if we look at our hero mat, this hero, Moonblade, can roll 3 dice because the agility shows 3 symbols, all right? And you can never roll more than 3 hero dice, just as an example. So we got the 3 dice, and let's go ahead and roll it and see what happens. All right, so at this point, you're going to choose a single die. So this would be a success against that skill check. Now, whatever dice you don't use, if there are these focus symbols or potentially health symbols, you can increase your stats by that amount. But obviously you can't go more than your max. So let's just say I was down here and I didn't use these 2, then I could increase up to my max. Now let's say that the skill check was a value of 7 and this is the roll I had. Now value 1 and 2 sides have these plus symbols, and these let you modify the one single die that you chose. So if I chose this, I could use this to actually make it a 7, and then I could use this to increase my focus by 1. If rooms are revealed that have these symbols here, then this is going to mean you're going to have to add a minion, and this is adding a goblin to the room. Now this room also has a trap where you have to do a skill check, and then if you fail the skill check, you actually lose 2 health. But say you succeeded against that skill check. Oh, and by the way, this question mark here means you can choose any skill. So if you were to succeed, then you can also perform for your 1 heroic action, notated by these blue icons here. You could actually try to disarm the trap, and that is the disarm token, which matches that. So you have to do a skill check for agility with 6, and if you were to disarm it, you could get that ability. Then any heroes coming into this room would no longer have to do a skill check for the trap. Let's say this player wants to move into this room here. All right, so this gets flipped over, and this happens to be a goblin card. So this player will move in here. Now, whenever you have this goblin, what you're gonna do is you're gonna get the next goblin out here. So right now we have no goblins out, so we're gonna start with the 1 goblin. The 1 goblin will be put in there, and then you're going to draw a card and put it in association with that 1 goblin. So now this is goblin 1. Let's say this player wants to use their heroic action to try to defeat the goblin. So this player has a hammer right here, and this is the heroic action of melee because it's a blue sword. Okay, so if they wanted to use the hammer, then you have to use the strength skill. So for this skill, this player gets to roll 3 hero dice. Okay, now whenever you're doing one of these enemies, you also have to roll an enemy die as well. All right, so let's go ahead and roll these dice. All right, so we got 2 5s and a 6 and a 3. Now with goblins, they only have a health of 1, so it just takes 1 hit to defeat them. However, each goblin might have different stats. So for instance, this goblin has a shield of 4. So basically in order to kill this guy, we need to have 1 hit, and it needs to be 5 or greater. So it can't be the same value, it has to be greater than 4. All right, so obviously we rolled that, so this guy would be defeated. Now if the enemy was still alive in the same room or in line of sight, then this is the enemy die. So the enemy would actually try to attack you. Now there might be modifiers of the enemy that's counter-attacking you. For instance, this one here, you would have more hits depending on which attack skill was used. And then this down here notates the movement of that enemy whenever that effect has been triggered. And if you were to defeat this goblin, you would be able to get this ability. Now each hero has their own defense as well, which will help defend against counterattacks. So players are going to continue taking turns trying to explore the dungeon, defeating goblins, trying to find the minion cards so that the minions come out. And in order to move on to Act 2, you actually have to defeat the minions. So in a 2-player game, you will have to defeat 2 minions in order to move on to Act 2. So the number of minions you have to defeat is determined by the player count. So 2-player game, have to defeat 2 minions. Now once the lair door card has been revealed in the dungeon and all the minions have been defeated, then you can move into the boss's lair and go into Act 2. Now Act 2 has its own set of rules. So basically, players are going to be trying to enter into the boss's lair and try to defeat the boss, and this is the boss's health. And you're also going to be trying to move the boss onto these altars in the dungeon, and there are different rooms you can go in, and basically you're just trying to attack and avoid boss counterattacks and try not to die. Okay, so this game is definitely not for everybody. There is a lot of game packed in here. Okay, so on the box it talks about the Tiny Epic series, which I've only played a few of them by the way, and it talks about easy entry. Now I will say this is not an easy entry game in my opinion. There is a lot to it. The rules, there's a lot of rules, okay? And it's very easy to get the rules wrong because there's so many different things and there's tons of iconography, okay? Definitely not an easy entry game. Now, with that said, after you kind of get past learning the game, the iconography, kind of, figure out the rules, there is a lot of fun in this game. Now, I've never considered myself a huge dungeon crawl fan. I like some of those types of games, but there's often a lot that I do not like. Now, I had a blast playing this game. Now, don't get me wrong, it is hard. This is a super hard game, okay? There is an Act 1 and an Act 2. I personally have never gotten to Act 2. Now, I hope to keep trying and hopefully get to Act 2 one day, but I enjoy challenges, and this will definitely challenge you. So in Act 1, you're exploring the dungeon, you get tons of minions, goblins, traps, kind of popping out whenever you discover, you don't really know what you're getting, but what's kind of difficult is you're constantly trying to fight off these goblins and, disarm traps and such, and you have to basically defeat these minions before you can even go to Act 2, and a lot of times those minions aren't revealed until a little bit later because they're lower on the dungeon deck. So by the time we discover the minions and start fighting them off, our health is, low and we're just struggling. So we've always died in Act 1. Now, there are definitely some times compared to others when we've gotten close. Like we found the minions and we were starting to try to, attack them. But then sometimes it was just a quick, we were like toast pretty quickly. So it's definitely been interesting because I played some 2-player games. I played 3 and a 4-player. So I played different player counts, and I've enjoyed my plays at all 3, 2, 3, and 4 players. Now I haven't played a solo. I'm not a huge solo person, so I couldn't tell you if that's any good or not. Now, like I said earlier, there is a lot packed in this box, and this rule book, this adventure manual, it's hefty. It's hefty. You're definitely going to have to try to read through things, but there is just a lot of fun stuff in here, guys, and I really like that, each player has their own hero that has different hero attributes, different health, different focus, different speed, different defense, and you can, go through and choose stuff. Guys, there's so much in here. I also have the Potions and Perils little mini expansion. I enjoy the potions. You get some good stuff, but maybe some bad stuff too. You've got so much stuff in here. You have all these minions, and you have tons of different cards. But like I said, I really like that. There's a lot of different heroes you can choose from. And then don't get me started on all the bosses you can play against. And I've never even gotten to them. I've never even gotten to them yet. But I love all the different heroes you have, right? Like I said, different attributes, different skills. Some might be more agile. Some might be better at casting spells, or different hero actions and different free actions you can do, and you can get different upgrades with loot. And I also really enjoy, I like some dice rolling in games. Sometimes if it's a longer game and it's tons of luck, it gets, boring after a while. I don't like it. But I enjoyed the dice rolling in this game, and whatever dice you didn't use when you were battling and such, you can use that to increase your focus or bump your health back up. It kind of depends on what you roll. So that part of the game was fun as well. But man, guys, like I said, there is a lot of iconography. I've played this game a handful of times, and still, each time I play it, I'm gonna have to. You have the reference player aid with all this iconography, and not everything is on that. You have the back page, and then you have a whole, so you have all of this iconography. There is a lot to kind of sort through, but in my opinion, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth sorting through all this iconography and hashing out the rules, getting a couple plays in, because there is a lot of fun in here. Even though it's really hard, it's a fun challenge. And I feel like, there's decent amount of replayability because you have, like I said, different heroes. And if you can make it to Act 2 multiple times, you got different bosses to beat. The dungeon is going to change. It's not going to be the same dungeon every time. There's a lot in here, guys. A lot of fun stuff, and I was surprised by how much I like it. Because, like I said, I'm not as into dungeon crawlers as much as other people. This was a very enjoyable game. I definitely look forward to keep playing this game, and maybe one day winning. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll get better and better at it. Yeah, guys. So this is definitely one to check out if you don't mind hashing through some rules and some iconography to kind of get started, because that is definitely a huge thing, okay? But if you don't mind doing that, this is definitely worth a shot in my opinion. This was a lot of fun. There you have it, guys. That is my thoughts on Tiny Epic Dungeons. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.